It is 6:30. I'll call this meeting of the St. Mary's City Council to order. Roll call, please.
Buck. Randolph. Here. Crispin.
Here.
Willoughby. Here. Fitzgerald. Eulenhag.
Here.
Mater.
Here. All rise, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You all received a copy of the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any corrections or changes or comments? If not, may I have a motion to accept then, please? Ms. Willoughby, Mr. Christman, council vote to accept, please. Let me see it again, please. Oh, yes, thank you. Gotta get my eyes for the setup. Okay, under petitions communications, we have a rezoning request from Capabilities. Okay, Mr. Harris, please consider this a letter of formal request to rezone 1.103 acre tract of land, 813 McKinley Road, and a 2.743 acre tract of land, 809 McKinley Road, and is part of outlot number 16 and number 127, and situated in the northeast quarter of section 3, St. Mary's Township, in the city of St. Mary's. Parcels are located south of McKinley Road, east of Scott Street. Parcels are currently zoned I-2 light industrial. It is requested that the property be rezoned C2 general commercial zone.
Just refer to the planning commission.
Any questions or comments? If not, may I have a motion to refer this to the planning commission, please? Mr. Yulnake.
Make that motion to refer the rezoning to the planning commission.
Okay, motion by Mr. Yulnake, second by Ms. Randolph. Council vote to refer this to the zoning commission. All yeses, thank you. This being petitions communications, this is the part where the audience may address council. You address council as a whole. All you have to do is stand up, give us your name, where you live. If you have a business in town, please mention that. And we'll go from there. I'll start with you, sir. Do you wish? You, sir?
Yeah. My name's Everett Dunlap. I live on South of Vine Street, and I'm concerned about a house down there that is, nobody's lived there for over 6-7 years, and there's raccoons and possums running in and out of underneath the house. I'm afraid someone might get bit by them animals, or maybe the cats or animals or your own dog could get bit.
What's the address of that place?
319 South
319?
Vine Street.
South Vine?
That was the house we looked at last year. The chief was down there last year. Am I correct on that? Mr. Yale owns that?
Yeah.
I can follow up on it.
Yeah, I think it's been on our radar. We've
Okay.
had, the safety chiefs look at it, and we'll have to revisit it to see if it qualifies under our vacant building or dangerous building.
It looks like a dangerous building to me. There's no bottoms falling out, and there's raccoons and possums running in and out of there. And I'm afraid what happens to them, they got rabies, they could bite somebody, some little kid or a growing up or anybody.
What's your address, Mr. Dunlap?
I'm 308 South Vine Street.
308, okay.
Great. Mr. Fox, when you say you follow up on that?
Yeah, it could be we're already in the process, so because sometimes the letters that are sent out, how they're sent out, and the time to respond, so I'll look into it. I've got a note here, so I'll check with Dan first thing in the morning.
I do remember that 319 being on the radar, so,
Okay, well, thank you.
so thank you, sir. Yes?
I was gonna say, my name's Nancy Mater. I'm Hudson's Jewelers here in town. And I wanted to address regarding the parking ordinance that's being brought up and the changes to the parking law that's been proposed. I apologize, we were traveling for business when the parking committee met and did submit some information and our feelings on some of the thought that we were talking about changing the times on Front Street and the parking times and some of the different changes to those things. Which at the time, we were fine with what everything was going on Spring Street. But now that I've noted, and I was just notified of this today, I just found that out, so I apologize. Would have said something to somebody sooner. However, I noticed in the information that is out that the proposed change would be to change the parking from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday only is when it would be enforced, and Saturday and Sunday would not be enforced.
That's correct, yes, except for Main Street.
Okay, I do have a problem with that. if we were just talking about Front Street, I'm not sure why we were talking now about Spring Street and Chestnut Street and all these other places. I know the picking and choosing gets a little confusing, but the hard part is when we get down to Saturdays in retail, I know there's not a lot of retailers on the committee, and I know there's not a lot of retailers that, but if we're gonna have a residential district downtown, we need to have a residential district. If we're gonna have a business district, we need to have a business district. And Saturdays are when retailers do business. There's a lot of people that do retail on Saturday. And I know by 3 o'clock, sometimes you could bowl down Spring Street. I do understand that. Maybe change the time a little bit on Saturday, understand that, but we are in the midst of a time when we're doing a lot of downtown revitalization, a lot of changes. In the theater building alone, there are two spots that they're hoping to at least put retail places in. There's other places they're hoping to add more retail, and that as things grow, the Kellmeyer building alone could be, it had talked about a restaurant. I'm not sure at this point in time the way the parking is gonna be, if that's gonna be able to happen. Because if you don't have parking, you are not gonna get people there. And what's gonna happen when you take that off of Saturdays is all the work that you've just done, and when we wrote that letter, and you started enforcing all that parking, on Saturday, it's gonna be full all the way down Spring Street with all those people that are parking on or that are living on those second levels, are all gonna park out front, and that's gonna be right back in the soup where we started from. They're gonna be like, ooh, Saturday and Sunday's off, I'm just gonna leave my car out front all weekend because they won't ticket me. And that's exactly what's gonna happen. Unfortunately, I was not able to talk to Mary next door, Mary Moran. She's open till 8 this evening, and didn't have time to talk to some of the other people. But I really have a big concern about this. I think that we're being very short-sighted by doing this. You need to look at where our community is growing and where we want it to grow, not just based on the fact that somebody didn't have parking for all of their residents. And I do understand that, and I feel for them, but on the other hand, we're a business district, we're not a residential district.
Just a couple things if I could. Tonight, will just be the first reading, so it's not gonna pass tonight.
Okay.
So tonight will be the first reading.
That's fine.
They'll read it 2 more times, and then I don't believe it's an emergency, so it won't take effect at 30. So there's ample time for folks to come and voice their concerns. But just to back up for a moment, the reason Front Street got wrapped up into this is because we started to talk about the central business district, which is Spring Street, Front Street, Main Street, Chestnut Street, and so that all got included in it. So
Okay.
so we just didn't focus on Spring Street. It was the whole, because that's where the 2-hour parking
Right.
stems from.
I do think, I'll be honest with you, you're kind of cutting off your nose, so to spite your face, for one block section where there's retailers all the way down Spring Street. I'm not so sure if you asked all of them if they would have a problem. Now, in the last several years, in the last 10 years, there's now with the addition of several businesses down on like Main Street, or I'm sorry, Miami Area Trading and Jackalope Stash. There are 2 new retailers there. Gertie's Candy, you guys are new. We've added some more retailers, but for the last 10, 15 years or so, or 10 years or so, I'm not sure, there's been a core group of us that were the retailers, and there's been a lot of service industry added. And I know that I know when the Rosenbecks bought that building, whenever they were going on the downtown model, where you do encourage some people living down in the creating some residential space in the area, because then that brings people down to eat, brings people down to, if you have restaurants. But we don't have those things at this point. We're not, even if we bring them in, if you eliminate the parking options, after a certain time on a weekend, you're really kind of reducing, you're just reducing your chances of growth. And as a business person, I think this is really short-sighted of the council and of that committee. And I apologize, I hope I'm not insulting anybody, but it really, I think it's not, I know people are unhappy, but sometimes you guys are asked to make tough choices, and sometimes not everybody's gonna be happy with what you do, and a compromise is not always there. And I'm not very happy, to be honest with you, and if it comes down to it, there gets to be a point where there might be other people that are retailers that are gonna start moving out, and you'll have less than what you had before. Because if you can't, we wanna grow like Salina's growing, we wanna grow like Wapak's growing, but we can't do that if we're not looking forward down, 2 or 3 steps down the road, not just currently where we are or where we were 20 years ago, because that's the way it's always been. So I guess that's what I needed to say, and I don't know what I need to do to move forward. If there's anything else, I know that we're in the reading phase and it's been proposed, but to make any changes to that proposal, and if we're at that stage, and I apologize for missing that meeting, and I know you did offer to let us zoom in, but in the middle of the airplane,
Sure.
crossing the country is not the time to really
Yeah.
jump into a Zoom
Yeah,
meeting,
I
so
understand.
apologize.
Well, like I said, there's gonna be 2 more readings, and then there'll be, so there's time for folks to still come. The council and the chairman of the committee, they can always reschedule another committee if they'd like, if they feel they wanna reach out and include more, so those are the options that exist. Council can always do that to encourage more discussions, but there's still plenty of time, and just like tonight, if there are other business owners who wanna express their concerns, they can show up at the council meeting, or they can just simply get a hold of their council representative or the at-large folks and talk to them. So it's, you know, we want that input. It's just like tonight, there's a couple here, and that's it. So again, you can encourage them to come. I know that these folks here are always available, they're reasonable, they'll listen, but like you said, they have to make tough decisions. And they look at these decisions, what's best overall, and that's how they move forward. But again, tonight, the legislation will just be read for the first time. It's just working through the process. So-
Well, I just,
And I, as one who's been on council the longest here, it would not be the first time that we refer an ordinance back to committee if we have to, and it won't be the first time that we amend an ordinance while we're reading it, if we have to. So if you've got compelling arguments, talk to your council representative. I'm sure Ms. Randolph will be very open-minded with that, and she's got a business too up in town. I'm retired, so I don't have to worry about that anymore.
Well, Mr. Harris, I do have to worry about this because this is my business, and I can tell you that Saturday is my busiest day.
Okay.
And it's always been my busiest day. So if you cut that parking out, I just think that's a horrible move just on Saturdays. I mean, the time thing can be adjusted, but when you kill the weekend like that,
So if it were just to include
Saturdays would be fine.
7 A through 5 P, Monday through
That
Saturday.
would be fine, but if, you know, I mean, this past Saturday, we had over 25 people in the store. You know, I mean, Mondays and Tuesdays, you might have 6 or 7, and I know, just, you know, I mean, I'm the only one that's on that street full-time, but even watching at the Island Shop, she has groups of people, because Saturday, if you're gonna be working retail, 90% of the people work during the week.
Yeah.
You kill that on a weekend, you might as well.
Mr. Motter, may I recommend that when we get to that ordinance, you make a motion to amend
Sure.
that portion, and we can go from there. And we've done it before, we can do it again.
Thank you.
We're trying to make it as inclusive as possible,
no,
and
we
like I said,
understand that.
if we don't have someone upset with us, we're probably not doing our job, you know? So. Anybody else? You, ma'am.
I'm Josie Slater. I have Miami and Erie Trading Company. My husband and I also have Black Dog Holdings, which is a property management development company, and we're working on Republic Coffee Shop. I too am concerned about the Saturday, but it seems like we've got that working. So, but I had kind of had an idea that I didn't know if could be entertained, that if we turned Front Street and Chestnut Street into one-way streets, you could easily double or more the parking on those 2 streets. So it might,
I
Give a
think
little-
that's, we've looked at that, and it really
Okay.
doesn't do what you think it's
oh,
gonna
it
do.
doesn't?
In fact, I think we looked at it at Front Street, and it didn't create any additional parking. So, and I think we probably still have, because that comes
Okay.
up pretty regularly.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else wishing to address council? I don't see anybody out in Zoom land, so I guess we're okay.
Well, Allison, but she's with us.
She's with us, all right. Okay, moving on then to reports of city officials. We have the mayor's report, Mr. McGowan.
Mr. Harris, I have nothing further to add to that, but I'll be happy to answer questions.
Are there any questions or comments from council? Okay, then we have the tax commissioner's report.
Mr. Harris, I have nothing to add to the tax commissioner's report.
Any questions or comments from council? Okay, and then we have the Director of Safety Service report, Mr. Foxover.
Ms. Harris, just a couple things to add real quick if I could, please. There's a groundbreaking for our new municipal building on Wednesday at 10 a.m. We're still working out some of the details, but Wednesday, 10 a.m., show up here if you're available. The weather's supposed to be pretty decent that day. The second thing is the coins are out, the bicentennial coins, the silver coin and the bronze coin. We have them both here for sale. The chamber, I believe, has them for sale, and I think at Zach's law office, I believe they're for sale as well. So they seem to be going over pretty well. So if you're interested, just stop at one of those places. We take cash or check. So far, things have gone over pretty well with the coins. Other than that, I'll be glad to answer any questions that anyone might have.
Any questions or comments from council? Okay, moving on to reports of committees. We have the Streets and Sidewalk, Ms. Randolph.
Yes, we met again to continue talking about the 2-hour parking, and we landed on leaving Main Street 9 to 9 and amending the rest of the central business district from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. And there will be legislation to follow.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council? Okay. Under readings of ordinances and resolutions, we have no third readings. Under second readings, we have ordinance number 2023-07, an ordinance vacating a portion of Weston Street located in the J and DA Barrington subdivision of Outlot 61 to the city of St. Mary's. Any questions or comments from council? At this point, I'm going to ask that this be tabled because we're going to have 2 special meetings this week, and this will go to the next regular meeting, and this will give the people a normal time that they can respond to us. Okay, so may I have a motion to table, please?
So moved.
Ms. Willoughby, Mr. Christman, council vote to table? Oh, yes, thank you. And then when we come back to our next regular meeting, we'll bring it back from table and we'll pass it. Okay? Next, we have ordinance 2023-08, an ordinance amending section 30309 of codified ordinances of St. Mary's. Any questions or comments from council? This is another one that we're going to have to table until the next regular meeting, so may I have a motion to table, please? Mr. Christman, Ms. Randolph, council vote to table. All yeses. Thank you. Next, we have ordinance 2023-09, an ordinance amending chapter 351 of the codified ordinances of the city of St. Mary's by adding a new subsection 351.16 entitled Notice of Violations, Fines. Any questions or comments from council? This being the type we're having, I'd like to have this tabled so we can hold it off until the next regular meeting, give everyone the same amount of time. So may I have a motion to table, please?
So moved.
Mr. Ulenik, Mr. Crispin, council vote to table, please. All yeses. Next, we have ordinance 2023-10, an ordinance amending section 35307 of the codified ordinances of the city of St. Mary's. Any questions or comments from council? Again, this is another one of those that we want to hold off till the next regular meeting, so may I have a motion to table, please? Ms. Willoughby, Ms. Randolph, council vote to table, please. All yeses. Next, we have resolution 2023-03, a resolution authorizing participation in the Houston-Galveston Area Council's Cooperative National Purchasing Program, HGAC BUY. Any questions or comments from council? And you need this tabled too, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, may I have a motion to table for the next regular meeting? Mr. Ulenig, Mr. Crispin, council vote to table, please. All yeses? Okay, under new legislation. I don't have to read the fiscal officer statement, do I? Okay. We have ordinance number 2023-11. May I have a motion to read, please?
So moved.
Ms. Willoughby, Mr. Crispin, council vote to read, please. All yeses. Ordinance 2023-11, an ordinance providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum aggregate principal amount of $1,530,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying the cost of the acquisition of certain property located on South Street and Spring Street, being the same tax parcels identified, and I read them before, and related interest therein for the future of municipal purposes included, but not limited to, the construction of a municipal office building, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, in the acquisition, construction, renovation, equipping, and installation of a municipal building, including the cost of design, engineering for the municipal building, demolition of the existing structure, and the acquisition of real property, together with all necessary appurtenances thereto, and declaring an emergency.
Okay,
Mr. Facto.
I can start off, then I'll defer to Allison. This is in regards to the note that we have that is due March 1st. The note right now is $3,585,000 plus about $44,000 in interest. We would like to pay off almost $2.1 million of that note that's due March 1st. And then we'd like to roll over the balance, which is $1,530,000. And in order to do that, we have to pass legislation. Of course, this debt comes from basically several different projects. One, it involves not all of it altogether, but portions of it, would be the purchase of the Dosek farmland, also the purchase of these three buildings, the Palm Building, the Murphy Building, the Touchdown Club, the demo of those three buildings, and then the architectural design of our new municipal building. So that's what this debt is for. At least a piece of it is mixed in there. As you know, we had notes prior to this. We paid off some, paid back ourselves some that we borrowed, and then this is where we're at right now. So we want to pay down approximately $2.1 million and then roll over $1,530,000. That'll be a one-year note. Our hope was to pay down a little bit more than that, but with the projects that we have and some other things that have come up, we just feel, the auditor, the mayor, and I have talked, it stretches us a little bit too far, or it takes our balances a little lower than we'd like to see, but we're very comfortable with the $2.1 million. So, Allison, would you like to add anything to that?
Sure, thanks, Greg. As Greg mentioned, I'm Allison Binkley from Squire Patton Boggs, and I serve as bond counsel to the city. As Greg mentioned, yes, this is an ordinance to authorize the issuance of the notes, to use those proceeds to pay off the existing notes along with funds of the city. I did want to point out that two things. One, in this ordinance, there is a provision where council gives its authorized elected representative approval. That is for federal tax purposes. It relates to the public hearing that we just had and goes to the tax status of the bonds. Second, there is an emergency clause at the end of this because the existing notes come due on March 1st. This does need to be an emergency and go into effect immediately so that we can get all of the documents signed and the new notes issued to pay off the old ones. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Are there any questions or comments from council? If not, this will be back for its next reading at the special meeting.
Correct.
And we'll go from there for the second reading.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yeah. Next, we have ordinance 2023-12. May I have a motion to read, please? Ms. Willoughby, Ms. Randolph, council vote to read, please. All yeses. Ordinance 2023-12, an ordinance amending section 35304 of the codified ordinances. Mr. Foxhole.
Ms. Harris, these changes were made at the suggestion of the Streets and Sidewalks Committee members, supported by the administration after our discussions we had during that meeting. As you'll see, Main Street, it deals with the whole business district, the central business district. Initially, the thought was to do 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday for the entire central business district. There were further discussions which led the committee and the administration to take out Main Street. We want to leave Main Street alone. Main Street will still be 9A to 9P Monday through Saturday. But the suggested change is to change it for the rest of the central business district to 7 A to 5 P, Monday through Friday. That's how it is currently.
Okay.
That's the current suggested changes.
Okay. Any questions or comments from council?
Yeah, Mr. Harris, I would like to put in a motion to amend the ordinance, please.
Okay, motion by Mr. Motter to include the day of Saturday in this ordinance.
Yes.
So it will be, shall be from Monday through Saturday, 7 A to 5 P. Do I have a second, please? Mr. Chrisman, council vote to amend, please. All yeses.
Thank you.
And we want to table this? Yeah, we got it. We
Yes,
want to
sir.
table this for the next, we want to table this now until we have the next regular meeting. So we're not, so we give everyone time to talk like Mrs. Motter did. So may I have a motion to table, please? Mr. Ulenig, Mr. Motter, council vote to table, please. All yeses, thank you. Next, we have ordinance 2023-13. May I have a motion to read, please?
So moved.
Ms. Willoughby, Mr. Ulenig, council vote to read, please. All yeses. Ordinance 2023-13, an ordinance to appropriate monies for deficiencies in the original amended ordinance number 2022-45 and any other appropriation ordinances for the fiscal year 2023 for the city of St. Mary's and to declare an emergency. Mr. Foxhoven.
Mr. Harris, ordinance number 2022-36 was passed on October 24th of last year. That ordinance allowed us to purchase the armory. It also allowed us to appropriate $210,000. That was the price that we agreed to pay for the armory based on an appraisal that we had done. So once the ordinance was passed, the money was appropriated. However, we were not able to close on the armory for a lot of different reasons, most of which were out of our control. So the 2022 year came and went, we were not able to close, and so that money is no longer appropriated. So we are asking that we be allowed to reappropriate that $210,000. We didn't encumber it into a PO because we didn't know what the exact amount was gonna be, because there's always some associated closing cost or recording fees. And so, so we didn't put it into a purchase order. So this ordinance will simply allow us to reappropriate that $210,000 into the general fund.
Any questions or comments from council? This one, I think we could probably pass at the special meeting. What is council's wishes?
There's no, we're not gonna close on it. We don't need to table this, we need to take this to the second, or the first special meeting, and then the second, because I don't know that we're gonna close on the armory this week.
Okay,
So there's really no need to speed it up.
okay.
But I
This will-
appreciate the offer.
We're still waiting to hear back from the state of Ohio, which is one of the reasons why we haven't had it closed
Okay.
by now.
Yeah.
So we'll just leave it open for right now.
Yes,
So
sir.
we'll just go from there. Okay. Next, we have ordinance 2023-14. May I have a motion to read, please? Mr. Ulenig, Mr. Motter, council vote to read, please. All yeses. Ordinance 2023-14, an emergency ordinance authorizing the Director of Public Service and Safety to contract with Polecat Incorporated for digestive sludge removal without the taking of official bids.
I'm going to yield to Kelly Judy, who will.
Ms. Judy, you have the floor.
Hi everyone, I'm superintendent at the water and sewer plants currently. And Polecat is a local company, and with the sludge regulations nowadays, it's getting more difficult to get people in to get sludge hauled. So we'd like to get Polecat because they work with our farmers currently. They work with us, they know our setup, as well as they have a very competitive price. So at this time, we would like to move forward with working with Polecat to get our sludge out, because we still need to maintain the sludge for our NPDES permit, even though we're in the midst of a sludge press or sludge dewatering project.
And then we can read this at the next
Yes, sir.
special meetings.
Yes, sir, and then we can pass it on Thursday.
We'll pass it on Thursday. Okay, thank you. Okay, under scheduled miscellaneous business and closings, I'd like to remind you all that we had a special meeting on Wednesday at 5:15 and on Thursday at 5:15, so we can get this stuff, some of these big issues passed. Any questions or comments? Then I need a motion to excuse Mr. Fitzgerald and Mr. Buck. Mr. Crispin,
Motion to excuse Mr. Fitzgerald and Mr. Buck from this evening's meeting.
motion by Mr. Crispin, second by Ms. Randolph. Council vote to excuse, please. All yeses. And is there anything else to come before council? Ms. Randolph.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Ms. Randolph, second by Mr. Gilliday. Council vote to adjourn, please. Thank you. All yeses.